Hi, everyone. Let's get started. Thanks for joining for the last session of the day. I'm Nicole Vasilevsky, and I'm co-presenting this session with my colleague, Randi Vita, here in the front. And yeah, thanks to you all for staying till the end. I know a lot of people had to leave to go catch flights, but maybe some people are watching on the live stream, hopefully. Yeah, so Randy and I have been doing this for several years now. I think the first time we did one of these biocuration careers workshops was in 2018 when we were in Shanghai. And that back then we were both on the executive committee for the Biocuration Society. So just to clarify, we're not experts on careers in biocuration or employment or things like that, but we just thought to do these workshops as a way to talk about the field and promote opportunities that are available for biocurators. How can the ISB and how can we help each other and promote success in our careers and think about ways which we can support each other. So I think in this current funding climate too, I feel like this is more important than ever. A lot of us are facing uncertainty with our funding and with our positions and don't really know where things are going to head. So I hope that we can all take this opportunity to discuss any kind of concerns we have or advice that we can give each other about how we can, move together as a community, move forward together. So yeah, the goal of this workshop is to raise awareness about the field of biocuration. We did try to invite people from external universities here in the Kansas City area, in Missouri and Kansas. I'm not sure if there's external folks here in person or online, but we would like to, kind of talk about the field that we work in and talk about potential career opportunities and ways in which we can promote biocuration as a field to people that we know and to each other. So first, I'm going to kick us off with some survey results. So if you're on the Biocuration Society mailing list, you should have received a survey that went out, I think sometime last year, that was open for several months, that was just inquiring about the kind of status of the field and trying to collect information about the community. So we've sent these surveys out for many years in a row, and a lot of the past results are saved up on the Biocuration Society's website. And I'm going to share the results from the most recent survey with you today. And then we have Randi, who's going to be talking about a few years ago in one of these workshops that we held, we collectively wrote a generic job description describing the role of a biocurator. So we'll review that and think about maybe ways that we could improve it or modify it to kind of suit the current landscape. And then Randi's going to talk about some current job openings and open positions that are available that she found via searching through job sites and current openings online. And then we are going to have a panel discussion, and we'll introduce our panelists when we get to that. And this will be an opportunity for everyone to come and for us to all discuss with each other what we think about things that are going on currently, what opportunities we have, and I'd love to talk about ways that we can try to support each other too. So first, I'll share the survey results. So so the survey was sent out to the ISB community via the mailing list late last year. And this year, we've been, like I said, we've been doing this for several years. And this year, we didn't get a great response. I think the mailing list has several hundred people on it. We had 23 people responding. So, oh, you didn't get it? Okay. Oh. So do you know who it was sent out to? Yeah. Yeah, for those listening online, Sue said that the survey was sent to the mailing list, and there's concerns that maybe it went to junk email or into other folders in Gmail. So, yeah, maybe that's something that ISB could look into, make sure that people are receiving the emails. Yeah, so this year, yeah, so it sounds like some people didn't receive the survey, so we regret to hear that. But we had 23 respondents, and the geographical location of the respondents was distributed across the world, which is nice. So we had 13 folks responded from the United States. We had 9 respondents from Europe and 1 from Asia. So we do have a bit of a geographical distribution of the respondents. And one of the questions asked, what type of institution do you work for? And that's certainly interesting when we're considering the different career opportunities and what kinds of opportunities people are looking for. So the majority of respondents come from academic backgrounds. Just to raise your hands of people here, how many of you all work in academic situations? Okay, so like maybe probably half are academic. There were some that came from government, some from the second highest was nonprofit, and then a few from industry. I think generally with the Biocuration Society, we have less representation from industry than other fields, so that's certainly an outreach opportunity for us as well. So looking at the salary ranges, I have to note that in comparing this, and I know this is a small number of respondents this year, so we can't make kind of sweeping generalizations about this, but interestingly, the survey questions started at the 30,000 to 50,000 US dollars per year range, and no one responded to that. So looking back at the past survey results, there definitely seems like the salaries are higher now than they were in some of the past, but also it's hard to make draw any conclusions from this because this just happens to be the people that responded. So, but it is kind of nice to see that the salaries maybe are trending towards being higher, even though, it doesn't maybe feel as much that way with inflation, and costs of everything seems to be higher now too. But it does seem like the salaries are trending a little bit higher than what we've seen in the past. The majority of respondents are making between $50,000 and $100,000 a year, and equivalent in US dollars, and then some, making over 100 or 150. So it's always kind of interesting to see kind of where the salaries are falling in the different positions. We asked about the working hours. So I think one of the great things that I've really enjoyed working in the field of biocuration is the flexibility with the job and the hours that you work. I think a lot of us will relate that we collaborate with people across the world. So sometimes you may end up working in hours at hours that are not perfectly amenable to your schedule. But the majority of respondents in the survey this time said that they had to be at work during regular business hours, but can flex their schedule. I think that's always been a kind of a nice perk of the field and the job, where you can, if you have children or if you have other things going on, you can kind of get away when needed and flex your hours. A quarter of the people said they get to choose their working hours entirely, which is very nice. I hope those employers that's a great thing to offer to employees. And then 8% said that they had to be at work during specific hours. So it does seem like there's a lot of flexibility in the field and what people are doing. So that's definitely a perk of the field. And then one question asked about how far away people are from their home institution, probably trying to get a sense of who's working remotely or who's working in person. And about half of people live pretty close to their home institutions. And then about 40% of respondents said that they are greater than 50 miles away, which I think probably means that they're working remotely. So I live in Portland, Oregon myself, on the West Coast in the Pacific Northwest, and my employer is in Tucson, Arizona. So I'm 100% remote and go to Tucson on occasion. But yeah, it looks like a lot of people are living pretty close to where they live pretty close to where their home institution is. And then there was a question asking about what was it like before the pandemic? But I think we all know the pandemic has really changed our working environments a lot. And my particular employer, the Critical Path Institute, prior to COVID, everybody was in Tucson and working in the office. And then everybody got sent home during COVID. And they realized that they were just as productive working remotely as they were in person. So then CPAth started hiring talent outside of Tucson. And that's how I ended up there, because I don't live in Tucson. So I wouldn't have considered this position if I was required to be in Tucson. So I think it's been very beneficial for organizations to recognize the ability to work remotely, even though a lot of companies now are doing return to office. And we know the federal government in the United States has done that, mandated that. So I guess it's, dependent, it's employer and job dependent, but I think the ability to be able to work remotely has definitely been a benefit for a lot of people. Prior to the pandemic, a small percentage of people exclusively worked from home. Although I feel like in the field of biocuration, just in my experience from interacting with this community for the last 15 years or so, it does seem that there was a lot of remote work opportunities compared to a lot more opportunities compared to other kinds of fields. But prior to the pandemic, only a small percentage of people reported that they were exclusively from home. And then the majority of people were exclusively working at their office or at their institution prior to. So there were a lot of people working in person. And then one person or several people noted that they could work from home or at their institution, go back and forth. My first job in this field was I live in Portland, and my first job was at Oregon Health and Science University. And I did that. I worked at home sometimes and sometimes went into the office if there was in-person meetings I needed to attend. And then one person noted that they were previously working at an employer where they were in office before the pandemic. So then inquiring about job satisfaction, it's always interesting to see the results from this question. And I think this is kind of similar to what we've seen in all the years where everybody's trending towards liking their job, which I think is a really positive thing to see. It's nice to see that, no one's super unhappy with their job. And I guess if they were, they probably had left and gone to do something else, and hence are not filling out our surveys. But it's nice to see that the majority of respondents are in either the 4 or the 5, like the most positive feelings about their job satisfaction. So I think that speaks really highly of the field. And since we collaborate with so many people, hopefully we're all contributing to everyone's job satisfaction. And then thinking about the career progression, like going through different positions and taking on more responsibilities, asking people how satisfied they are with their career progression. And this is more distributed. So we're seeing some people who are not very happy with how their jobs have progressed. And I think it really depends on the project and the institution, and probably on the leadership too, and promoting people into new positions, or also probably funding opportunities and just the type of work that's available. But there seems to be more of a distribution of people's satisfaction with the progression, although overall it seems that people are pretty satisfied in general. And then we asked if people have been promoted since they've been in their career. And it was almost kind of half and half, or majority of people have been promoted, but there was 38% of people who said they have never been promoted. So I don't know if this is something that people need to consider considering new opportunities. And we can tell you about some of those that are available today and think about that. Or maybe some people are happy where they are. So not everybody is seeking promotion. But I think as a community too, we really have an opportunity to help each other. So, if anybody has questions about how to get promoted or how to advance their career, I think we could take the opportunity to communicate with each other. And now we're at the end of the conference now, so the networking will be wrapping up shortly, but we still have Slack and we have our emails, and we'll have future conferences. So, oh yeah, please. Right. Yeah, the question is if there's this question about if you've been promoted, did it take into account how long have they been at their job? And no, the question just says, have you been promoted or not? So that's a good point. Maybe we should think about revising that in a survey in the future. So yeah, that's true. If you just got hired, you shouldn't be promoted. Take your time. Yeah, yeah. But I think I guess we didn't have a question in the survey about how long people have been in their career, but I think we've had that in the past, and I think sometimes we see that some jobs I do get the impression that some of them are kind of stagnant, or it's just kind of the job you have, and there's not really upward movement in every position. So, but yeah, I think if people have questions about promotion, I think there'd be a great opportunity for us to kind of network with each other and talk about it. I was previously working in academia myself. Now I work in a nonprofit, but we had a lot of mentorship about getting promoted in the academic environment, which was like a lot of kind of work that you had to do to get promoted. So I definitely personally appreciated having mentors help me with that, because it was like a big process. Asking about satisfaction in the work environment, I think this relates to like if you work from home or if you work in an office, and who are you working with, and is it productive and supportive and stuff. And a couple of people said they weren't very satisfied, which is unfortunate to see. The majority of folks answered that they are satisfied. So I think this is another thing where we could kind of support each other and think about ways in which we can make the work environment more supportive, and maybe dig more into this and think about what is it that's unsatisfactory. It'd be interesting to find more about what's causing some of these people to respond negatively. And then we asked about leadership roles. So So we know not everybody leads a project or leads a group, but then there's a lot of opportunities for leadership without being the PI of a group. So we asked about different types of leadership opportunities. So like leading specific projects, and the majority of people the people who responded are leading projects, and maybe they're not running the group, or maybe they're not promoted in their position, but they are having the opportunity to lead specific projects. Almost half of the respondents are involved in writing grants. So, and then one person noted at the end that they're not the PI on the grant, but they do contribute to the writing. So that's a major contribution that we as biocurators have the opportunity to do. Writing papers, almost 70% of the respondents are involved in writing papers. So these are some of the scholarly products that I think are necessary to help us, be recognized in the field and help us get funding. Half of the folks that responded are managing staff. So that's another way that folks are contributing and leading in these roles. And some of the other responses were participating in strategic decisions, unofficially leading projects too, and working groups. And someone noted that they had past experience in supervision and project leadership, but are not currently doing that. And then thinking about the ways that we can kind of promote ourselves as bio-creators and the work that we do, some of the scholarly products that we produce. A lot of people are writing papers and publishing on the work that they're doing. People are submitting to code or writing software. We have folks who are doing posters like we had here in the last couple of days at this conference. And then also this opportunity to present in conferences or give talks is a really great way for us to kind of disseminate our work. And then as curators, I kind of would expect to see 100% of people are contributing to curated data sets, but the majority of respondents are. And then I was surprised to only see that one person said they're contributing to ontologies and databases. I would definitely expect that to be the majority of folks, but we don't know exactly who responded to the survey. But then we saw too that a good chunk of people, 42%, they don't track the products that they're producing. So that was kind of an interesting response, and I think that's something that when I felt in past projects I've worked on, this is something I think we can really do to help promote ourselves as bio-creators and kind of bring recognition to the field and tracking the kinds of products that we're creating and kind of sharing that with the community, especially in like your CV or your resume, kind of promoting we're disseminating this work and it's impactful in a lot of ways. So we asked folks about how they track, if they are producing scholarly products, how are they tracking them? I think a very common way of measuring impact and metrics is looking at citation counts and also at the H index of the papers that you've produced. Also looking at article level metrics such as downloads or page views, especially now with like preprints coming out so frequently. It's nice to be able to look at the preprint and see that so many people are reading it. A lot of us contribute to GitHub repositories for different types of projects. Looking at GitHub forks or other metrics in GitHub can be useful for kind of tracking impact. Google Analytics, or if someone's reusing your data set or your software, I think one person said that they track that. And I think that's really the ultimate compliment, in my opinion, if people are using your work, using what you're developing. And then Google Scholar mentions another, someone noted as another way to track their products. So this wraps up the summary from the survey results. Are there any questions about this before we move on to next? Randy's going to talk about the generic job description and then open positions, and then we'll introduce our panel. So these survey results will be shared. Oh,
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so I after you said that so few answers.
Yeah.
I went to my email to see, okay, why did this?
Uh-huh.
And because I love that. 1% not to the IC Biocuration manually, something called mailing list. Not sure how it on both, but maybe a lot of people are not.
All right.
The other thing is, I remember that I started looking at the form, at the Google form, and started to answer. And I remember I started asking, oh, this is for biocurators, and I don't consider myself really biocurators. I should pay the data.
Ah.
Which biocurators.
That is great advice. Yeah.
So, just to take to a slightly more elevated comment, I guess,
Mhm.
because the people who show up for this conference, and I believe it's more than people who are mainly, but it's an incredibly diverse group of people in terms of career stages, in terms of how they define themselves, in terms of what they do, you know, and therefore that could go with things like salary ranges and so on. So I'm thinking that, you know, you might want to limit this specifically to biocurators because that is kind of the core people. So I'm gonna say, okay, do you consider yourself a biocurator? If so, continue here. If not,
Yeah.
please don't.
Yeah.
Or the other thing is to kind of make a larger survey of the community if that is of interest.
Yeah.
But I think that's the reason why I dropped this.
That is such great advice. Yeah. Edith commented, if you didn't hear it on the live stream, that the survey looks like it was very much targeted towards biocreators specifically and not to the more general community. So I think that's great advice to make it more explicitly targeted towards a more general community. And we'll definitely do that for next year. Consider.
Not
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah, and past surveys, I think it's also, I mean, we kind of build on a survey every year. So the past surveys are on our website, but they may be too similar to what we had this year. So we'll definitely take that into consideration and try to revise it for next time.
I'm just curious about the salary question. Was there an option not to report your salary, or did 23 people really all report their salary?
Yeah, no, it's optional. I think most of the questions are optional. So we certainly don't want to force anyone to have to answer any personal information if they don't want to.
I do have a question because like for the past few days, I feel like biocuration is also a very umbrella term for people doing a lot of stuff. And
Yeah.
I think I didn't see it like being classified in the survey, like what kind of stuff or what is your daily
Yeah.
responsibility. So that
Yeah.
would help me like visualize what work is biocurator doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think in past surveys, we've asked people, what is your specific title, and tried to kind of tease that out a little bit. We also, in the collaborative biocuration workshop that I did on Saturday with Sabrina, someone mentioned that we should, that on the ISB website, there's actually a definition of biocuration, the process. And someone said that kind of needs to be revisited and revised. So I think this kind of speaks to that too, that we need to, this is what we do. We try to define information. So we need to think about how we're defining biocuration and the different roles that are available. These are great comments. Thank you so much. Okay, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Randi.
I'm going to talk about that exact thing. What is a biocurator and what's on the website? So as Nicole mentioned, a few years ago, Nicole and I were part of the EC, and with some other people, we came up with this generic job description, which is currently on the ISB website at that link at the bottom. And the first question would be like, is it even useful to have that? And I think it still is, because even in this past year, one of the people we collaborate with needed to hire a biocurator for the first time. And he reached out to me and asked, how do I hire a biocurator? What is a biocurator? He knew he needed to hire one, but he didn't know how to describe what he needed. So I sent him to the ISP website and got them all. So I think it is still useful to have something on there and maybe have it either more expanded or more narrowed, or maybe some different job descriptions. But the first thing that I noticed when looking at all the open jobs currently was the phrase biocurator does not actually appear very often in the job descriptions. So they're not the title that's being used. And I think that's unfortunate, because I think when we talk about data standards and standardizing things and making things fair, biocurator jobs should be findable. And taking the bio out of the title makes them less findable. So I actually would implore people, when you advertise, call it a biocurator, so that we know it's a bio job. Because if you go to job search websites that have all sorts of jobs hosted and you put in the word curator, most of the jobs are not biocurators. They're art curators, they're history curators, there's all sorts of other things that people are hiring for under the guise of curator. And if it's hard to find the jobs, I feel like we failed as biocurators. So I found that unfortunate. So that's why I added the scientific curator, because that was the name I saw most frequently when I was searching. I'm not suggesting ISB add that, but the phrase biocurator is what's on the website right now. And that's just for the current EC to think about and talk about. And I see a question.
Thanks. I'm bifocal, so I can't see anything. So regarding that specific problem of too much background, one way to limit the background is to, if you're on LinkedIn, for example, which is the environment I'm most familiar with, is to limit the industry to, say, pharma or academia.
But not every site has that option.
That may be true, but it will help.
It does help, yeah.
I'd also like just to remind you that if you're going to the website and typing in a search, that should probably be an activity that you do once and then click the little switch that says, send me updates every day, every 7 days of new listings, so that you don't have to remember your entire keyword search. Then you should have a bunch of them. So for example, a lot of places have never heard of anything about curator. You want to look for a curation job. I'm thinking of pharma. You limit to pharma and you put the word ontology in. Okay. And if they have the word ontology, that's a pretty good bet that the activities in that position will be something you're interested in. That's one piece of advice.
And that's the sort of advice that could be, added to the ISB website also. And the current description on the website is the scientist who extracts, interprets, synthesizes, and archives data from a variety of sources. And then it goes on to say that you're trying to make it more machine readable, discoverable, and accessible to the public. And I highlighted the word public because I don't think that's necessarily true. There's a lot of jobs in industry where they want you to biocurate internal information that is going to remain internal, or it's for a specific project and it's only going to be made available to that team on that project because it's proprietary information. So I think just taking out the word public would be good enough to capture it. And then what makes a good biocurator, I don't think has really changed much, that you have to be detail-oriented, conscientious, a good communicator, and adaptable. And I think adaptable to all sorts of different things depending on the specific environment. And then the education that is on the current job description says typically a PhD with subject matter expertise. And that is definitely what I found when looking at the open jobs. PhD was most commonly requested, with a lot of postdoc jobs and some higher end team leader positions. But it does seem PhD was the number one, unless it was mainly a bioinformatics or programming job, then they had lower degree requirements. And then the job description says to demonstrate exposure, understanding, experience with natural organisms, to understand latest technologies. It depends on the field. And then demonstrate experience in the creation, or at least understanding of the type of data that, and I think that's why the subject matter expertise comes in, is they want you to understand the data. Either you've created it before, you've used these types of data sets, or you understand the needs of them. And then defining and refining the rules as they apply to that same field. So mostly they want people who've worked in a specific field. And so the current openings, when I went to look, I found 12 that required a PhD, 3 for bachelor's and 1 for master's. And pretty much all of them start off with the job description looking for subject matter expertise. And just some examples were structural biology, bioinformatics, genomics, metabolomics. And ontologies came up several times, which in past years was less frequent. And only 2 asked for biocreation experience because they were higher level positions. I think a lot of times if you want a team leader, like wonderful Sandra, you want someone who has experience doing the creation to lead the curation team. And then data standards and fair principles came up way more frequently than past years when I've done this same exercise of going through to see what types of jobs I could find. So I think adding maybe something about data standards and fair principles more explicitly to the Biocuration website might be important, or just like links to resources like that. Maybe we didn't have them. I haven't explored the website.
So I'm going to type up again. Sorry.
Oh, no,
I don't
that's
think
what we're
you-
here for. It's
Okay.
fine.
Can you go back one, please? Thank you. Another thing to remember is that when you see like requirements on the job listing, those are aspirational
Yeah,
based on, the company will do that. And I'll also warn you, this is going to sound incredibly sexist, but it's borne out by the research. So I'm mentioning that there's research on this. Men tend to look at a list of job requirements and say, oh, I meet about 50% of those. I think I'd be a good candidate. And women tend to look at a list of job requirements and say, oh, I only need about 85% of those. I don't think I'd be a good candidate. So let them tell you no.
Hmm,
Okay, go ahead and apply. Let them tell you no.
that is really good advice. And I never would have come up with that. That was good. So programming, the current job description says demonstrated experience, collection, storage, transformation. I don't want to just read, and legacy data is specifically. And so I highlighted that, Sue, because I don't understand why it would be legacy data, because currently lots of data just is being curated as it comes in. And like, as several of the talks talk about interacting with the scientists even prior to creating the data to help figure out how you're going to format it and how it's going to come in. So I think you should take that legacy word off. I don't know what that's about. And then variety formats, definitely true. And also on the website right now, it says demonstrated skills in the common use of data wrangling, which that used to be a phrase that, as Nicole mentioned, when we looked before, when we asked for all the job titles, there used to be a lot of people with the job title of data wrangler or jobs. But that phrase I could not find anywhere anymore. I guess it's an outdated phrase. I don't know. And then I have never heard the phrase extract, transform, load software before, but I also didn't see that. But Python is still very much, that's the number one reference to programming skills that I saw in any job. So the current language of choice is Python. And most of the job openings mention not necessarily that you are a programmer, but you're open to learning the programming, or you're good to interacting with people with programming, or you've experimented with programming. So to sell yourself, even if you spend a Saturday trying to see what you could do in Python, put that on your resume and say you're open and you have experimented. But I also think it's true that we don't just need programmers. We do need programmers, but we also need subject matter expertise. And not all of us can be programmers. So I don't think you should let that hold you back. If you see a job that you're a great fit for and you're not going to be able to be the programmer, most teams have different people with different skill sets. And then ontology tools is becoming more and more frequent, like the robot tools and Protege and other specialized ontology tools that's coming up. So, and again, that's something you can do on your own time. Like most of the ontologies, or maybe even all of them, are just volunteer people. So if there's one that's relevant to your field, find out when their call is, join it, participate, try and make some term requests. And that gives you some credibility in that field and makes you more familiar with their process. And soft skills, I think we all take these for advantage. Like, we don't tend to sell yourself on that you've done these things. So collaborating with the team, I think, has come up with every single biocurator, and communicating with the programmers and bioinformaticians as a go-between between the people creating the data, people submitting the data, and the people using the data. And then experience and self-training, exploring new technologies. I think that gets mentioned an awful lot. And the current openings all mentioned lots of different soft skills. And I think it's important, if you're interviewing, to take some time to think about examples of where you exhibited these skills in your current position, and how you could talk about it in an interview, or even put it on your, if you could document it in some way, put it on your resume or CV or whatever you call it. And then location and site, I mean this in a couple of different ways. Country, but also environment, like whether it's academic or industry. So on the current job description, it says you have an understanding of the life cycle of data and that particular type of data in your environment, but also data licenses, that's the word, relates to the type of data and the environment that you're in. The laws are different in different countries, and the types of data, like, public health records have very different rules from stuff that you're just taking off the internet and putting back on the internet. Is going to have a very different environment. And so the current openings, I found 6 in America, 11 in Europe. And in the past years, it was more equal. There were definitely more in North America before relative to the total. So that was a little disheartening. but Europe has always had a good number of jobs. And because I'm limited my knowledge of what sorts of search engines to use for jobs, there may be other jobs I didn't find. So there may be jobs in India or South America that I didn't find. So that's also something that I don't know if we should even put that information on the website. Try and figure those things out to help people, because I couldn't figure. I Googled, I asked around, I talked to people, and I felt like I probably am missing jobs. And like Nicole said, we're not experts at this. We're just trying to be helpful. And then 4 were on site and 8 were hybrid. And that was also disappointing to me. I found 2 remote jobs at this conference, but I didn't see any remote jobs when I was searching, and that made me sad because that opens up the world to everyone if you can work remotely. 13 were academic, 3 were in industry, and all the current most of the current job openings mentioned needing to know some knowledge about the applicable rules for the type of data that you would be curating and the FAIR principles and the industry and data standards, depending on the type of work it was. And this is just a summary of the job openings, and we have a link to a Google Doc that has the job openings we found. But since the beginning of making these slides till now, several of them have been filled, so they're not all currently open. But that's good news, I guess, because people got jobs. But this is just kind of an overview of what I already said. I'm not going to read through it again. And then there's the link. And we also have a link to the ISB job page. And I don't know if you're, so we have them separate because I found jobs on my own. And usually the jobs on the job page, people submitted to the ISB. And I don't know if you want to take jobs and add them on there that weren't directly submitted by whoever's posting that job. I don't know if that takes a step too far with, yeah. I mean, I could submit them to you, but I'm not the one hiring. Okay. And then now we're gonna, wait, should I ask if there's any more questions? I think maybe they were all. We have one.
Whenever someone comes to you with a job opening, is like immediately put onto the jobs page on ISB?
So the answer is as immediately as one member of the EC can get to it. So yeah, we get them emailed to us, and we also try to see if we pick them up in like any of the Slack spaces. There is also a jobs channel in the ISB Slack. So we try to make sure they all end up there, but it's definitely, it's an EC member who has to do it, and we're all trying to do 10 other things at the same time.
And so I clicked on everything on the ISB site to see which ones were still live and not. And it's kind of, some jobs go really, like, get filled quickly, or they have a cutoff time. And even if they don't get filled, the link stops working. And then the job is still technically open if you know who's posting that job, which someone looking for a job wouldn't know that. So I think that's unfortunate. And I don't know what we can do about that. But then some of them stay live for a really long time and they don't get filled for a super long time. And often that's because they're on-site positions in locations where they don't have a lot of candidates. So, and I mean, the ISB wants to reach out to people, but I don't know if it's really in your purview to like say to someone, you know, you haven't filled this job in a year, maybe consider hiring someone hybrid or remote. Because as a field, that's like one of the big perks of biocuration. Like that seems like a little bit overstepping, but I just noticed some of those jobs are not getting filled. It's because, and they tend to be on site in wet labs in remote locations. There's not a huge candidate pool. Okay, so next we're going to move to talking to a panel discussion where if anybody has any openings, even past openings or what you're looking for, if you have any advice for job seekers, if you have any insight into what's going on in the moment and for our future, please share it with us. answer audience questions. And I'm going to introduce the first panelist, and then Nicole's going to introduce the next two. So the first panelist, Marty, Nanny, you can call your name and you come up like you're getting a prize. She is a senior scientist and team leader in Rancho Biosciences, which is an industry job, and that's why we've asked her to come in. She has a background in molecular and developmental biology, and their team works on various life science types, including clinical trials, genomic assays, microbiome, imaging data, and both internal and public facing. And they provide services to all sorts of pharma, biotech, software companies, and academia for doing curation. They provide curation services to other I don't know how to say this, places who don't have their own internal curators, because sometimes that's not cost effective. And if they have a trained team of curators, they're ready to help you.
All right, thanks. And then next we have Shannon Farrell, who we gave our keynote this morning. And yes, we're getting her mic'd up. Yeah, Shannon, as maybe you heard this morning, she comes from the University of Minnesota, where she leads the research data services for the university library. And she's also part of the data curation network. So I think that's sufficient introduction. We all saw her talk this morning. And then Sandra Orchard, who we also heard from today. Sandra is a team lead at the protein function content at MBIL ABI. And she's responsible for leading the curation team for Uniprot and works on the gene ontology. Sandra was a member of the ISB executive committee for many years and served as the treasurer and the chair. And it's great to have her today. So with that, here we have our panelists, and then yeah, we'd love to hear specific questions from you all, or we can start with the questions that we proposed. Does anyone have any questions to kick us off before? Okay, I think Charlie.
This is a little bit of a different kind of question from what we talked about so far. This maybe is more for the industry side. So what does it take to go from working as a biocurator tangential to this in an academic or sort of semi-academic group, and to break into building a business to do biocuration? So Rancho is, for example, very successful. SciBite is, I think, something a lot of people look to. There's a lot of EBI alumni who had a lot of experience, and they monetize this into a business. And at the same time, there are some big databases, maybe DrugBank and DisGeneT are ones people might be familiar with, that spun out of academic groups and then decided that their way to be sustainable was to work as a business. So if anyone has any ideas, what does it take to build a business in biocuration and to break into the space?
I guess I can start. So I think what Rancho has done, in addition to providing services of biocuration to people that don't have it internally, they've started building tools that we provide to people, and products as well. And we've also started things like the single cell consortium, where people can subscribe to a corpus of data sets in their particular interest. So in addition to the services, supplying tools and products around data curation, I think, is also really valuable.
I got nothing. I can't speak about starting businesses, but I have certainly had curators who moved from the EBI and went into industry, and I did it the other way around. I actually came from industry, although as a wet lab scientist, into curation. It's a very different environment there, and that's still the case, and it's certainly the feedback I've been getting from people who've moved into industry and tried to establish curation groups there. It's in groups are a lot more siloed. There's a lot less cross communication. There's a lot more resistance to doing things in a common way, because they've all sort of created their own little area of data sharing which works for them. So they have found it very difficult to bring this concept of open data, even just within the industry, you know, that single industry, let alone with any external group, and really had struggled against the sort of parochial mindset that still seems to be prevalent in industry. So I think you have to be thick-skinned is probably the first thing, and prepared to put the hours in to get that, to sell the whole idea that this needs to be done. And there are benefits for it. I mean, people just don't understand the benefits from industry because it is a very different working environment.
I think a good example of people leaving EBI and going to industry is SciBite, and we tried to get someone from SciBite to come talk today, but fortunately they didn't send anyone to the conference. But they offer I think they offer custom curation tooling and services to their clients. Or yeah, so I'm sure you're familiar with SciBite. I don't know if everybody is, but that's another path a lot of people have taken, especially from EBI. They're based in England.
Yeah, but there's a lot now recently gone into pharmaceutical companies.
Okay.
Quite enthusiastically hiring curators, but not necessarily listening to them when they've got them.
Yeah. Interesting. Ask some of the questions that we've planned.
Do you have any thoughts of why everyone on stage is a woman? Probably don't want to hear them.
I don't have any comments.
It's hard to answer that question without sounding sexist.
Well, it's not. Research tells us that women tend to stand up for service type opportunities, which is what I see this as, right? It's
Yeah.
service for the profession.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, because biocuration tends to not be that glamorous, but it's getting a lot of work done. So you have self-satisfaction, like you don't need the external fame, but you feel good about the work you're doing. And then, I mean, again, it sounds sexist. I think this is just personal experience, different types of attention to detail.
Mm-hmm.
And also flexibility, job flexibility
Yeah.
is, I think, more highly valued in women, especially any with children or
Right.
needing to go pick them up or drop them off or something.
Just maybe we could get to some of these questions. So yeah, do you all want to take a moment to talk about if there's current openings at your institutions or openings that you foresee coming?
Sandra's been plugging her job.
Sandra's retiring.
Oh, I can go. So currently on our website, we don't have any postings, but we're actively growing and we'll be hiring soon. So the type of candidate we're looking for is essentially the description for biocurator that was up there. Some things that I would add for Rancho in particular is we're always looking for people that are experienced with clinical trial data and the standards that come with that, like SEND and CDISC and things like that. And skills such as R, SQL, and Python are highly valued and sought after, in addition to the general biocuration skills. And then our openings kind of are flexible based on the project demand. So Rancho is project-based with contracted out to different companies. So at any time, we would need potentially someone who has toxicology background or an ontologist. So like our positions pop up on a project need basis, essentially. So sometimes it will say toxicology and other times it will say immunology. So it varies.
Randi, can I ask, like, if it's a project need basis, are the positions stable or is it kind of more
They
contract?
are, yeah. So the projects are constantly in flux. So yeah, that's interesting. So the job postings are looking for someone, but it is project based. But then after that project,
You find
completes,
something
there's
else.
something else.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Well, we constantly have jobs open, partly because of the infamous 9-year contract, 9-year rule. I don't honestly know what's on there at the moment, other than my home job, obviously. But it's always worth looking. Personally, when I'm hiring, I always look at the previous experience, wet lab experience, because of the candidate, because we can teach them biocuration. We're used to that. We've got all the expertise to do so in-house. But what I can't teach them is 20 years experience on the bench and knowing what's a good experiment and what's a poor quality one. So, you know, don't make the most of whatever experience you've got, and don't sort of hide your wet lab skills under a bushel, because at the end of the day, that might be what gets you the job.
Interesting. Very much. Hi, Danielle.
And going back to your response, so, and the comment that Mike made on having 50% of the skills or 85% of the skills that is advertised. So now I think, okay, I'm a biocurator, I could apply to Rancho, but then you say, well, we value our programming. So it's like, okay, no, that I don't have it. It's like a toxicology. Yeah, I can understand toxicology, but I haven't done. So it's like, then can one still apply and have a chance to have a job if you have done, I don't know, molecular biology for 15 years and have curated molecular biology, or also clinical trials? Because I think that every curator here has even if they haven't worked with them, they can learn and understand. As Sandra said, you learn also on the job. So what's Rand? What does a company?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I came to Rancho from curating Xenopus data. And so now at Rancho, I'm, you know, curating clinical trial data, preclinical toxicology data. So it's certainly, it's done. And I would not prohibit or say, don't apply. Absolutely. What Mike said is correct. I would apply. Even like I say, and so I think if you have the ability to get experience in SQL or R or Python, or great, that would be a huge benefit, but don't let it keep you from applying to something like that.
Back to the whole application thing. So like we're a pretty small organization and we really value very highly, like a carefully crafted cover letter. Like we really want people to apply because they really care. In this age of sort of like everything AI generated, like, are you looking for in that application, you know, are you actually looking for like sort of a human being who really, really wants to work with you? Or like, are you just sifting through like hundreds of applicants and then pulling out keywords?
No, I mean, I think as part of the HR department, they are looking for keywords, but ultimately they only do want to hire people that really want to be there. I was telling Mike, our CEO is the final person in the interview process because she wants to make sure that you're passionate about what you're doing and that you fit in with the culture there. And their mission is to save lives through data. So she was meeting with everyone to make sure that these people really care about what they're doing.
So regarding the carefully crafted cover letter and resume and the hundreds of applications that they get for any open position, it is true that your first screening will be done by a robot.
Not necessarily. I read every single CV for jobs I put out.
You're fantastic.
We don't have robots. We just got people.
Do you get hundreds of applications for every position?
Depends, but yeah, with hundreds now, probably no, but we're certainly into three figures offer sometimes for some of the curator positions.
Well, in industry at least, I mean, it's going to be hundreds, and there's going to be software involved. The purpose of the resume and the cover letter is not to get you the job, it's to get you the interview. So it's very important to tailor the resume and the cover letter for each position. Use the keywords from the listing, okay? Make sure that you've answered the question in your head, at least, why am I the perfect candidate for this job? And get through and work your network. If you know somebody there, ask them to put your resume on somebody's desk. They're a little secret. There are bird dog fees for making recommendations for successful hires. Bird dog is you get a little bit of money for that. So yeah, work your network. It works out for everybody.
I feel like we really have a chance within this community to work the network. Like we have the Slack channel. If you're looking for a job, we could ask each other, like say, you know, applying to SciBite, but SciBite's not here today, but we could say, you know, who knows someone at SciBite? Can we pass on my resume? I think it's really a good opportunity for us. I feel like, especially right now with things being so uncertain, we don't know where things are going. I think we should really lean on each other. And I would even personally volunteer if people are looking, if anyone wants, another eyes on your cover letter, or your resume, I'd be happy to read through them. If anyone else is willing, we should all communicate with each other on Slack.
But if you do that, if you just work within your network, how do you get new people in with new ideas and open up new fields? Because you want to reach out to your machine learning community, but you're only looking within your own networks. How are you going to do that?
That's a great question. Does anyone want to take that?
Well, yes, some people are going to come and they're going to be occasionally recognizable names there, or somebody who's had the taken the initiative and contacted you ahead of time and talked to you about the job. But that still doesn't mean that they're the only people you're going to look at. The job has been advertised, people have applied, you have a duty to go through those and look at the CVs, and you're going to pick the best out. And yes, somebody who's taken a bit more initiative might get slightly further up the list, but there are still going to be a list of people you interview. So getting to the interview, you start with hopefully start with a clean slate. You don't go in with a bias and think I'm going to hire this person before I even start. So you do try and take a broad stretch of candidates, just so you have the choice of the best people to look at.
Now, I'm just going to put in that it's partially on the ISP, on our network.
Yeah.
So, why we're trying to do more reaching out to try to bring more people into our Slack so that your network is broader than it would have otherwise been.
Just not for online.
So, I got my job through serendipity. Like my first biocuration position was like, I knew somebody who was looking for somebody to do this thing that I'd never thought that I was ever going to do. But then when I read the job description, I was like, oh my God, holy shnikes, this is amazing. And this is what I want to do. So, and maybe that was sort of the point, is like, how do you foster that kind of serendipity? I mean, does ISB have a LinkedIn group, and are we all on it? And then our, primary, secondary, tertiary people, that is one sort of useful kind of a social network potentially. I mean, as much as I think that social media should be annihilated.
There is a LinkedIn group, right, too? Yes. If we're asking if we're on it, we should check. Maybe we aren't. So yes, let's go. Our homework is to go onto LinkedIn and join the ISB group. And yeah, I do agree. It's kind of I got my job through serendipity too.
How competitive is the job market?
I opened up the laptop looking for it.
How competitive is the job market?
Well, certainly not short of candidates. Personally speaking, I've always had a good choice. Sometimes I've had curation experience. Occasionally, I've had an intake where there's absolutely none of them done curation before, but they're still good candidates because they've got that background, the right background, the right personality when you interview them.
Yeah, I think it really depends. The last hire we did that's the Critical Path Institute was for a data engineer, and we had like 300 applications, but a lot of them were like not at all the kind of data engineer we needed. And we ended up hiring someone that I used to work with, so the kind of the networking thing.
I was going to say, I think the competition is the opposite. So I feel like, because I work in a nonprofit, we are surrounded by for-profit, and we're in San Diego, and there's a lot of biotechs there. So if you want to hire someone with programming experience at a nonprofit, you're now competing with all of these jobs that probably play double. So we get far fewer candidates, but they actually want to do it. Or for the wet lab scientists, they could go to another wet lab in any of these other industry jobs, but they're choosing to come look at you. So I feel like the competition is between us and the other job openings rather than between the candidates.
I like Sanders' talk today too, bringing up the important role for curators in AI. I feel like there's going to be a lot of opportunities for us, whether people know that they need us or not. I think there is a lot of opportunities for us. I think that's going to hopefully be on the rise. Harry?
Yeah, I just wanted to speak to the kind of serendipity of getting a job, because I got my current position somewhat serendipitously. But it was mostly just because I had a website. So I was out there, and my suspicion, which nobody has ever confirmed to me, was that they just started typing into Google what they wanted somebody to have experience in. And I had all those keywords on my website already, so it popped right up to the top of the results.
Love
And
that.
I suspect now that people are asking LLMs more questions, that's going to happen more often, because even if the LLM is attached to a search engine, it's still gonna it's gonna be based on those same kind of keywords. So I think that's kind of the easy hack now is, just to have the good social networking, but also, some landing page that just lists who you are and really obvious keywords. So you, show up in the searches.
That's great, Harry. I have a personal website too that I built off of my colleagues. He had a GitHub repo that he created he built with the intention of people forking it and making their own website. So if anybody ever wants that link, just contact me. Or Harry's yours built on GitHub as well, or Squarespace, yeah. Yeah, mine's free. So I like that. Squarespace is nice too. We need to wrap up. We're 1 minute over time. So I don't know if there was any other questions. Final questions before we adjourn. I know a lot of people need to rush off to the airport too. So many thanks to our panelists, and thanks y'all for staying to the end. I jotted down some notes, and let's continue these conversations over Slack and future meetings, and maybe even if we need to, have webinars or meetings online to discuss these things. Oh, good. Yay. That's great. Yeah. Thanks so much, y'all. Yeah. I like it. That's smart. All right. So, yeah, please. We'll have Sophia's going to give some final remarks, and thank you all for. Oh, Sue's giving the final remarks. Sorry. Yeah. Mike's? I need to get Mike's first. I think I'll just use it. You want a minute? Hold on, I'll hear you. Want a microphone?
No idea how to use it, but. Well, we're probably going to have to move around a little bit.
No.
Yes, so we are, this way, right? Because that works.
Yeah, just ask. And then,
Oh, there it is.
and then here's the,
I was looking around the room.
how many slides do you have?
That's a good, not very many.
I'll just sit down there till you're done.
Okay, because because you've got the poster award part.
I see you around the corner.
Oh, okay.
You're hiding.
There's the poster awards and then
Okay.
the certificates. And there's the prizes, and then here's the mic runners, and
Okay. Okay, well, we'll drag you back up for that too. All right, so I'm gonna make this quick and short, and hopefully we'll let everybody get out to do a little more networking and maybe enjoy some of the lovely weather that Sophia so kindly ordered for us, so that it's sunny and 70 when you have your afternoon off before you hop on a plane. So brief closing remarks. Okay, so we've had a great meeting. Thank you very much to Sophia and all of the people at Stowers for doing an excellent job. We've enjoyed it, but now that we've gotten in touch, let's stay in touch. So if you haven't already, dragged you into Slack, and as it came up in the last one, yes, we have a LinkedIn, and look, there's a QR code for you to go to our LinkedIn. We also have all of the social media. So we are on Blue Sky, we have a Mastodon, we have a newsletter, we have a website, we have email, we have an email list. So there's lots of ways for us to communicate. Pick your favorite, pick multiple, come talk to us. And then this is our yearly plea to please be a member. Please, we do good things with the dues, mostly supporting people to come to these meetings, but also providing seed funds if the meetings need them, which We've had a nice run of people not asking us for them so that we've forgotten how to give them, but we'll remember. I've got people on it. And then just thinking about recognition coming up, we just heard, we heard Sandra's talk from the 2023 award, and the reason that that Lifetime Achievement Award was actually being presented in 2025 is we had our first ever tie, and we decided we were not tie breaking. We were going to recognize them both because they both clearly deserved it. But that means that we have our nominations coming up. The forms will go out to nominate shortly after I get back home and recover from this, for our early and advanced career awards. And also the exceptional career awards are run every 2 years. And so we're coming up to another year. So please start thinking about who are the early career award people early career people who you think really deserve some recognition. Who are the people who are a little further on, but are not really at lifetime achievement who deserve some recognition? And who are those people who are just the stalwarts of the field, the people who are our backbones, who really deserve the recognition? The early and advanced career awards come with a monetary prize, and they give a talk at our virtual annual general meetings. And then the Lifetime Achievement Award comes with the prize of, we send you to the meeting and pay for everything for you to go to the next meeting, and you just have to get up there and give a talk and accept some presents. And Sandra will help you figure out how to get said presents back home. And then also I'm going to put in a plug to please consider joining the EC. I mean, you've met a number of us here. I made them all come stand on stage with me. The time commitment, when I first signed up, it said, oh, it's like an hour a month. No, it's not an hour a month. It's more like 3 to 4 hours a month. There's a monthly meeting that is the EC meeting. And then I'm trying to be very insistent that everybody has to be active in at least one subcommittee. So that's another hour. And then if you've got to do things for that subcommittee, that gets you up to that 3 or 4 hours. If you're dumb enough to take some of the other officer positions, it goes a little more than that. You must be a member of the ISB to be on the EC. And elections happen in October, and usually people just nominate themselves. So you nominate yourself, you write it up, and then you run, and then hopefully you'll come join us in our calls and make scheduling our Zoom calls even harder. Because right now we span India to the East Coast of the US. So picking a time actually works really well for the Europeans because it falls in the middle of their day. And Sonia and I have to suffer a little more. Membership benefits. So there are certain monetary awards that you can apply for that are open only to ISB members. So and that's the Exchange Fellowship, which doesn't often get used because I think people don't realize it's there. But if you want to go work with another lab, work with another curating group to get some training, to learn something, we can give you up to 2,000 Swiss francs. Everything is in Swiss francs because we're a Swiss nonprofit, to help you pay for that. So it's really about going and interacting and working and trying to learn something, not so much for going to a meeting. There are also microgrants, and you heard from Nicole during the meeting about the group that got a microgrant to award some prizes to encourage more interaction during a workshop. The other 2 awards are actually open to anyone, because it seemed wrong to us to have an inclusivity award and then say you have to be an ISP member to be included. So we make that, and that's again a smaller award of 500 Swiss francs for the support that you might need to be able to go to a meeting. So if you need childcare, or you have an older parent that needs somebody to be with them, and you still want to be able to go to this meeting, but you need to be able to pay for somebody to come and help you out. So that's what that's about. And then the travel grants, and we've always made the travel grants open to anybody because we aim them at early career stages and at people from low-income countries or countries suffering natural disasters where they otherwise wouldn't be able to come. And so we have always made those open to non-members, and they are really geared for younger people. And we give to our travel grant recipients also a year membership in the ISB because we try to suck them in and keep them in. So this year, it was a little chaotic with the travel grants. We attempted to award 4 in-person and 4 virtual. And we got, initially we had awarded 4 in-person. I sort of mentioned all this, so I'm gonna just skip ahead. We ended up with 1 in-person after the problems with the US and with people having trouble getting visas. And we flipped a couple of the in-persons and we didn't get as many requests for the virtuals as we thought. So we ended up with 4 virtual and 1 in-person. And actually that meant we got away very cheaply on our awards this year. Only about 3,500 Swiss francs in total, which was far less than I had expected us to spend. But now I'd just like to, I'm like skipping things because I'm tired. So all of the requirements are up there. The key one is that you have to submit an abstract and have it be accepted for presentation. And as I said, the priority is given to students and postdocs because we want to encourage more people to come into the field. We want to build out their networks and help them network so that they can then get their next job. And the other thing that we've struggled with and actually was very nice this year is because we're all volunteers and don't have a huge amount of time and none of us are travel agents, these are all paid by reimbursement. Although this year the organizing committee very kindly let us just say, oh, that's a travel grant recipient. So just mark them as paid on their registration so they don't have to lay out that money. Because it can be a real hardship to have to lay out money and wait for reimbursement. So that was a really nice way to at least cut down the amount of money they had to lay out and bring things closer together. All right, and that's why I keep rushing, because I want to thank and congratulate our 1 in-person person. So Rajat, would you like to come up? I couldn't be. So we'll come out a little bit. And we'll say congratulations and thank you for coming. And it's lovely to have you here. Okay, and then I just want to acknowledge our virtual. So E.B. Dickinson, Francis Agama, I don't know if I'm anywhere close. Adekunle Kolowole Ojo, and Mariam Hanachi. Because we announced the South Africa meeting in October, we actually got a number of people from Africa who tried to come, but then ran into issues with visas, and EB ran into NIH issues. All right, and then we are looking forward to our future conference, which, as many of you know, because I can't keep a secret, is in Cape Town. But we did announce this back at the AGM, and so there is a link on here that I'm hoping they can click up there to run a video.
Excellent. Good.
So yes, we're very excited for this to happen. Let's see if we can get back to the. Beep, beep. Ah, there we go. All right, so I just want to thank everybody for a great conference and give you once again the pictures of the current members of the EC. Yeah, that is it. Yay! So, all right, so now the thing that maybe many of you are waiting for, which is the announcement of the best poster winners for each session. So the EC members scored to the best of our abilities. Hopefully it wasn't too hard to actually figure out the winner. We handed it to Sophia. So the best poster for session 1 is Anastasia Ratulin. If I'm anywhere near, is Anastasia still here? Yes, because you get a prize. Lovely puzzle. Thank you very much. Congratulations. And is there a certificate? I thought there was a certificate. Did I? Oh, yep, there. It's there and I'm just not paying enough attention. This is why Sophia has to keep me on schedule here. Thank you. Great job. You're gonna take one. Okay, and then, and I swear I did not put a fix in. The winner for best poster of session 2 is Daniela, and I'm gonna mispronounce your last name, Daniela Rositi.
My colleagues, because we did it. Everybody, we are working as a team. Thank you.
And then, so then we had a call out for mic runners. And some of you had a very easy job, and some of you, especially the one who worked this last session, had a very hard job, but we do have presents for you as well. So could I get all the mic runners to come down to the stage? It's Deepti Kundu, Marcella Monaco, Eric Ross, Lynn Schrimmel, Sarah Smith, Jay Unruh, I'm sure I'm messing up last names, Kimberly Van Auken, and Kirsten Westendorf. So if you want to come up, we have little presents for everybody. I'm going to put the mic down now.
I'll do that.
Because they were just too cute. They are little Kansas City Rubik's Cubes. It's cute. Some of our people left. Make the rest of them come out here and be in the picture.
Okay, let's do it.
That is my trick.
Thank you.
All right, you're free.
I just want to say, thank you all for coming. We couldn't have had this great meeting without all of your participation. Posters and questions and chats. And in the beginning, I said I was very excited to have this conference, to see old friends and the potential to make new ones. And I think definitely I've made some new friends. I hope we can keep in contact. You should all have my email. And if not, you have the Biocuration 2025, which I'll monitor for a little bit. And well, it came up a lot, especially in the career workshop about programming. So I've been organizing a course at Cold Spring Harbor for a long, like I've been at the course for 22 years and organizing it for like 10 or more, but it's programming for biology. It happens every October and it's 2.5 weeks. And we expect that you know nothing about programming, zero. You can come in with no prior knowledge. And so our goal is to teach the biologist to program. So it's and we do have grants available. When you apply, you can ask for a grant. And also if you apply and you write your personal statement, mention that you were here and are part of the ISB, so that, you know, keywords for me, I don't have a computer to read it, but I read it and that'll stand out to me. So, and so thank you all. Thank you so much. And thank you for virtual attendees. If there's any left, I can't even see the counts. So I hope there's some people still left online, and I hope this was helpful for you to be able to attend. I wish you all could have been here in person, but virtual is second best, and I hope it was good. We do have recordings. I think that's a tomorrow problem. Okay. Or maybe next week. I don't know. Oh, good. Excellent. There's still 10 people online. So we do have recordings of everything. We'll figure out if it's going on the ISB YouTube or what exactly is happening. And we have all this, we have all the posters at the F1000. If you presented, we would like it if you could upload your slides as well in the F1000. That way people can then see them again besides just the recordings. Am I missing anything? And thank you, Chris, for helping organize. And so it was Chris, Sue, and Lisa, and she's not in this room right now, but it was the 4 of us. I looked at those and the organizer for the next one. There was so many. They're gonna have to organize organizers. It was the 4 of us, and we all worked really hard, and it looks like it paid off. And so, but thank you, Chris and Sue and Lisa. Thank you. And I don't know, did I forget anything? Okay, well now that's it. Now you can leave.